I hate being new to a job. I really do. I've always hated being the new person anywhere or in any type of situation. I'm okay one-on-one, but when it comes to meeting new people or being in a group, I clam up. I instantly feel self-conscious and don't want to say anything. I find myself questioning everything I say, and I think it comes off as awkward and insecure. As I got older, I realized it's just who I am and what I have to deal with. Everyone has their challenges, after all. My absolute biggest fear and worst nightmare is public speaking. I remember reading somewhere that public speaking is the #1 fear, even over death. I could believe it. I wondered if I would ever get over it, but then thought, if I don't, oh well. I had graduated from university with an English degree. My big dream was to work as an editor at a publishing firm. This work really suited me. As shy as I was, I loved stories of all kinds. I loved the characters, the setting, the quiet beauty of a good book. Reading was my ideal activity. It felt like I was interacting, engaging with the characters, without actually having to interact with actual people. As much as I preferred not to have to interact with people, I knew that most jobs involved a certain amount of socializing. All I really ever wanted to do was read, though. So the thought of becoming an editor and working with one writer at a time was appealing to me. It was good, quiet work that paid fairly well and didn't involve a lot of groups interactions. At least that's what I thought. When I graduated, I had a writing award under my belt that helped me get the job. I had written a paper on the affinities between artists and writers of 50s, and my professor had loved it and nominated it for a prize. I remember that being one of the proudest moments of my life. It was bittersweet, though, as my brother had tried to steal my thunder and had succeeded somewhat. I was on holidays with my boyfriend at the time and a couple of friends. We had pitched in and rented a gigantic house on a lake for a week. We were having a great time when I got a message from my dad to call him right away. I was nervous, thinking it was bad news, but it turned out to be the opposite. He told me that he had gotten home to a voicemail message from someone at the university saying that they had been trying to get a hold of me about a prize I had won. My dad phoned the number back and explained that I was out of town and asked what it was about. The woman explained that she had phoned several times, left messages, and even spoke to a male that was quite rude. The prize involved a big ceremony at a publishing firm, where the awards were handed out, along with the prize money. She went on to say that the ceremony had already taken place and that she had left all the information on the voicemail, as well as with my brother, who was the one she had spoken to. As it turned out, my brother had deleted the messages and not passed on what he was told. My dad was furious, and so was I. I had missed a great networking opportunity. But to be honest, the thought of walking up on stage in front of a bunch of people and accepting anything was pretty much my nightmare, so I wasn't that disappointed. My brother was a strange one. He was 6 years older than me, but had always been jealous of me. He felt like I was smarter and better than him, but that came from no one other than himself. My parents certainly didn't play favorites, and I was the quietest, least competitive person around, so those were definitely his insecurities about himself. My brother had no excuses about why he hadn't passed on the messages and deleted them. He just shrugged his shoulders. He didn't care. Anyway, when I was back from holidays, I went to the university to pick up my prize money. It was a whopping $600, a great amount for a first ever writing prize. With that prize on my resume, I landed the job I wanted at a local publishing firm. I was thrilled. It was a dream come true. My first day, I was nervous, really nervous. I was happy that my office was a half cubicle. I had a full wall on one side, so I had more privacy than a lot of the other offices and cubicles. My boss was decent enough. He was somewhat of a hipster douche, but at least he was kind. He knew I was shy and didn't pressure me to hang out in the staff room for my breaks as other workplaces had done. I liked that. I really stuck to myself, and no one really seemed to mind. The boss's name was Carl, and one thing I will say is that he didn't hide who his favorite employee was very well. I could see why. Caroline Lawson was her name, and she seemed to have it all. She was very attractive with long, thick brown hair, a nice slender figure, and big brown eyes. She also happened to be one of the kindest and friendliest people I had ever met. She was also super smart. Caroline was editing a cookbook. It was a big project. The line of cookbooks was a big seller, and it was the third in the series that the firm had edited. I was working on a book of short stories, which I loved. The writer was a young female, only 21 years old, but I felt she had real talent. Her characters were so real, they seemed to jump right off the page. I couldn't put my finger on how she was able to make them so real, but I think it was because they were so flawed. They just seemed more authentic. One day, I had just met with the writer and was optimistic about the book. I felt like it was going to be a prize winner, and that was a big boon to have your name associated with a prize-winning book. I was in the best mood and had gone to use the washroom before settling in for a big push on finishing her last 3 stories before the finished book could go to print. I had finished up in the stall and tried to unlock the door. To my horror, it seemed to be stuck. I pushed on it hard, tried to jiggle the lock back and forth to no avail. I was stuck. There was a little space under the door, but not enough for me to shimmy under. There was a bigger gap between the top of the stall and the ceiling, but other than standing on the toilet to climb up, I wasn't quite sure how I was going to get out of there. I tried to stand on the toilet and put my other foot against the wall and pull myself up, but the wall was too slippery and my foot kept sliding down as soon as I pulled my weight up. I decided to try with bare feet, which definitely got me farther up the wall, but ultimately I just didn't have enough upper body strength to pry myself up there. I had just dropped down and was sitting on the toilet for a break when it occurred to me that I might have to call someone in the office and tell them that I was stuck in the washroom. That thought mortified me, though. I knew it would get a lot of laughs, and while I was okay with people getting a good laugh at my expense, the thought of being the center of attention was not appealing to me. I figured I would give myself a couple more tries before giving in and calling for help. Just as I was collecting myself to try and climb the stall again, I heard the door open. Thank God, I thought. I was just opening my mouth to call out when I realized that 2 people had come in and one of the voices was a man's. Why was a man in the woman's washroom? I got my answer immediately. I could hear the sounds of kissing. Oh, great, I said to myself. Now I had the thrill of being stuck inside the washroom while 2 employees made out? Ugh, just my luck, I thought. I was hoping it would be a quick makeout session, but things were seeming to get more heated with every passing second, and I could tell this was more of a lunch break quickie than a plain old makeout session. My curiosity got the better of me, and I squinted my eye and tried to peek through a tiny gap between the door and the wall. I could see shapes moving, but I couldn't really see enough to tell who it was. The sounds of heavy breathing were getting louder, and I tried to cover my ears. I couldn't wait to get out of here, but now there was no way I could ask these people for help, as they would know I'd heard everything. I had really gotten myself in an embarrassing situation. I could tell things were escalating, and then the mystery solved itself for me. I heard a, "Oh, Carl," and an "Oh, Caroline." So now I knew. It was the perfect Caroline and the boss, Carl. I can't say as it really surprised me. Now I really got why Caroline was so obviously his favorite. They did their business for another few minutes, and then it was over. I could hear them collecting their bottoms and putting them back on along with their shoes. They were whispering and laughing together, and I wondered if they were an actual couple and just hadn't come out at work yet, or if it was just some fun. Once they left, I set my mind back to getting out of there. Surely people would be noticing my absence soon. Why couldn't this washroom be like pretty much every other one where you could crawl under one to get into the next stall? What if someone ran out of toilet paper? How could you pass it under the stall? I braced myself to try the climb again. With my bare feet, I climbed on top of the toilet and placed one foot as high up along the wall as I could. I put both hands over the edge of the stall top and tried to pull myself up while I pushed off with my bottom foot. It was working. Despite my weak arms, I was able to pull myself up to the point that my stomach was folded over the top of the stall, and I could see down into the next stall. All my body weight was pushing my stomach down into the wall, and it wasn't the greatest feeling. I tried to haul myself over further until I was able to finally swing a leg over. Once I had done that, I just had to start lowering myself down. I did so with a thump, unlocked my stall from the outside, and grabbed my shoes and socks. I quickly put them back on and headed back to my desk. To my surprise and somewhat disappointment, it didn't even seem like anyone noticed I was gone. I guess there are some advantages to being the shy and quiet one, after all. To watch more animated story videos like this, hit that subscribe button. And tell us in the comments section what you thought about this story.